Hey everybody, Justin here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about how to build natural, unwavering self-confidence. Now this video is not going to be a typical video on confidence, on how to manipulate people or how to win friends and influence people or how to change your external world. This video is going to go a lot deeper than your external world. And if you know anything about me and my videos, you're going to know it's all about going internally. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand the paradigm that most people operate at that keep them in a vibration of low self-confidence. And consequently, you're going to also understand the paradigm that you need to operate at to be vibrating at high self-confidence, unwavering self-confidence that does not rely on the external world. By the end of this video, you're also going to understand a different model that's not talked about as much for interacting with reality. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's really what it is. It's a different way of interacting with reality. And if you interact in this way instead of the usual way, which we're going to get into, then you're going to have an endless stream of self-confidence. And you're going to be living life, living in your power, being empowered instead of giving your power away to the external world. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So I do want to just jump right into this paradigm that most people operate at. And this is the paradigm I used to operate at as well. And this is just the paradigm that our society operates at for the time being, because this is how we were programmed to operate. And this paradigm is, I need the external world to be a certain way for me to feel good. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one more time. I need the external world to be a certain way for me to feel good. This paradigm automatically gives away all of your power, because we have really no power over the external world. And how I think the self-help world, or perhaps maybe even the dating world, used to go about confidence is we need to kind of trick people. We need to manipulate people into thinking that we are powerful. We need to do certain tricks with our voice or talk about certain subjects. And those things can work, but at the end of the day, you're just continuing to add things on top of a paradigm that doesn't really work. When instead, what you can do and what you're supposed to do and what's most natural is just shifting to a different paradigm that assumes I don't need anything from the external world. I don't need the external world to look a certain way for me to feel good. In fact, self-confidence doesn't come from me feeling good about the external world looking a certain way. It comes from me feeling good about being myself. And that's what this video is going to be all about, is can you feel good about being yourself? Not needing to change anything about yourself, not needing to change your physical appearance. And I say this, when I say these things, it doesn't mean that doing those things are wrong. Like, I do believe you should get in the best shape possible. If you feel like dyeing your hair or, getting a nose job or whatever, sure, you can do those things, but do those things operating from a place where you feel already really naturally good about yourself. So I'm going to ask you a question here, and the question is, how does it feel to be you? Is that a question that you've ever really pondered? Because there is only one person ever in the whole world that will ever know what it's like to be you, and that's you. There's also only one person that has access to your internal world. There's no other person, there's no piece of machinery, yet at least, there's no computer, there's nothing that can know exactly what it's like to be you inside. Only you have access to both what's going on internally and what's going on externally. But going back to what most people try to do, or how most people are programmed, is we expect something out there to go inside of our internal world and change the way we feel. And because no one has any access except for us to our internal world, no one has access to our emotions, no one has access to our beliefs and our thoughts, it's up to us to determine how we feel inside. It is our responsibility. And I'm not saying that, it's your fault for the way you've been programmed, or maybe you've experienced certain traumas in your past, or maybe your past hasn't been up to par with what you want from your life. Maybe you feel like you haven't been dealt a perfect deck of cards. And sure, that's not your fault. But no matter what deck of cards you've been dealt, it is your responsibility to take full control and sovereignty over your internal world. Once you do this, then you create unwavering self-confidence, because you don't operate on the paradigm that assumes you need to gain more self-confidence. Do you get where I'm getting at? Because if you already need the world to look a certain way for you to feel good about yourself, you're already giving up the assumption that you need to gain self-confidence. And if you're playing this game where you need to continue to gain things to feel good about yourself, then you're not going to win that game. That's going to be a vicious cycle of never winning the game. Now, the point I really want to get across here is I want you to realize that changing your external world isn't inherently bad. There's nothing wrong with buying things and wanting to get more money and wanting to travel to exotic locations or wanting a new relationship. But the thing you have to understand is, what's that quote that says, wherever you go, there you are? What that means is whatever is happening in this internal world right here, you're gonna take that with you, because that's who you are, no matter where you go. And if you go to an exotic location, if you get a new relationship, and while those things can give you very, very temporary highs, sure, feels good, but how long does that last before you go back to your default mode of the stuff that you're carrying on inside of you in your internal world? And so the point that I want to get across is that the only reason you think you need something externally to feel good about yourself is because that's how you've been programmed. It's just a program, and it's not real. And the cool thing about that is that that's where your power comes into play. Because it's just a program, you have the power to change that programming. You have the power to release this idea that I need the external world to look a certain way for me to feel good. And again, this isn't bashing the external world. This isn't saying abandon the external world. It's not saying that, but it's saying operate from a place where you can allow the external world to be what it is, but you already feel really good about yourself naturally, internally. Okay, so at this point, I've established what the old paradigm of low self-confidence looks like. And that is that I need the external world to look a certain way for me to feel good about myself. So shifting into the empowering high self-confidence, and I even hesitate saying high self-confidence because that assumes that you need to gain confidence, when it's more just your natural stream of confidence. But shifting to that perspective, to that paradigm, that looks like I already feel good about myself internally, and I can let the external world be as it is. This gives you all of your power back. Instead of putting your power into something you have no control over, the external world, or you have very, very little control over, you are reclaiming your birthright to your power. And power comes from within. Now, this is going to be the perfect segue for me to start talking about the model that you need to use to interact with reality, because these these go hand in hand, and this is how you can start interacting with reality in a way that's empowering, in a way that allows you to utilize the true power that you're born with, which is within, which isn't from trying to manipulate others or trying to restructure the external world or try to get people or force people to think in a certain way or to look at you in a certain way. That power comes from within. And what that power is giving meaning to external circumstances yourself instead of letting external circumstances define who you are inside. Let me just explain that a little bit further. I've explained this in other videos too, but it's really this idea of free will and this idea of what our true power is. Now, in this reality, in this physical reality here, we don't have access to a magic wand that can change our challenges, that can erase our challenges, that can, swiftly change the way our world, our physical world looks like. We don't have that kind of free will. We don't have that kind of power. And so this new way of operating with reality, the framework that it's based upon is everything is happening for my benefit. All my challenges are there for my benefit. The resistance I'm holding is there for my benefit. I just need to be able to tap into that. Instead of suppressing it, instead of trying to change it, instead of assuming the worst, instead of letting the external world define who I am, let me take my challenges, let me take my resistance, let me take the negative emotion that I'm feeling inside, and let me learn from it. Because, this is the cool part, because if that negative emotion wasn't there, I wouldn't have an opportunity to grow. If that negative emotion wasn't there, I wouldn't have an opportunity to be more free. Because I can only be more free if I see where I'm not being free and I can learn from it. So this model of interacting with reality gives you your power because it takes all of your challenges, all the negative emotions you're feeling, and it allows you to use them in a way that they're meant to be used, which is, how can I learn from this? How can this make me better? Almost in a way, not almost, in a way where you can be thankful for your circumstances, for your challenges, because they're showing you how you can grow in ways that you otherwise could not have grown. So let's kind of put this all together. I know these ideas have been kind of abstract, but how this looks in real life, or rather in real time, is, first of all, you stop operating from a place where you let external circumstances define for you who you are or what you believe in. Instead, you take your triggers, your emotional triggers, you take your negative emotions, you take whatever event normally would make you feel bad, and you allow it to let you feel bad. But what you do, instead of pushing away that negative feeling, instead of escaping that negative feeling, which is what we've been taught, grabbing our phone or putting on Netflix, allow that negative feeling to come up. Allow yourself to be emotionally triggered. Now, the work here is not externally, the work is internally. Once you've allowed yourself to feel this negative emotion, you use that as a way to trace back internally to what you're holding onto that's forcing you to feel bad about that. Okay? What limiting belief are you holding onto? What piece of programming are you holding onto? The more you do this, the more you cultivate this inner strength of being able to look at your pain, your negative emotions, internally, face to face, instead of what most people do, which is push it away. So that right there is already cultivating an inner strength and inner confidence that most people don't have, because you have the willingness to look at your pain. You're going internally instead of trying to change externally. So you start creating this relationship with yourself. The more you do this, the stronger you become inside. The stronger you become inside, the more space you're able to create between your programming and who you really are. And you can get to the point where you literally see your programming operating in real time as you go about your life. Events happen. This is where I'm at right now. As events happen and my mind goes, a million miles per hour, and maybe my heart's racing like this. But what I'm doing is just noticing. I can be there in a conversation that's triggering me, but I'm there just noticing. I'm noticing what's going on. I'm noticing the program that's running in my mind from a more expanded perspective. Realizing that I'm not that programming. Once you're able to do this, once you're able to let the emotions come up and the mind just do its thing until it runs out of steam, you start letting go of the program. And you start associating with who you really are, which is the person observing the program. That person observing the program doesn't need to gain self-confidence. That person is already an endless stream of abundance confidence. Now, what a lot of you might be thinking at this point is, okay, great, but does that mean I stop doing things in the external world? No, that's not what that means. The difference is you're not operating from a place where you need the external world to look a certain way. Okay? When you're able to cultivate this confidence, you're able to go about life not being fearful, because you've already established this new paradigm. You've already established you're living this new way of interacting with reality, where you're not shying away from negative emotions, but you're allowing negative emotions, negative feelings to come up so you can learn something about yourself. They're a gift. And you still continue to go about doing things. You still, go and try and get a better job if that's what you want, or start a new business, or seek a new relationship. You still do those things, but you're operating from a place of empowerment where what happens in the external world doesn't really matter, because you already feel naturally good about yourself. Now, there's a funny thing that happens when you start operating from this place. When you start going inwards instead of changing externally, and you start restructuring what's going on in here, when you start releasing programming, when you start letting go of limiting beliefs, what happens is your external world starts changing. You'll start notice different synchronicities. You'll start noticing things you never noticed before. And so in a funny way, our external world does change as a result of us going in internally. When you start operating from this place, you're not going to have a need to want to manipulate others or to force others to see you in a certain way, because people will start seeing you from a different place, because you're operating from authenticity. You're operating from your true place of power. You're operating from natural confidence. And people will pick up on that, because you're not being needy. You're not needing to change everything so you can feel good about yourself. And there's a certain ease that comes along with that. There's a certain ease of just going with the flow of life while still trying to grow, while still trying to do your thing. But it's not because you need it to feel good. It's because rather you feel good already and you're excited to do things. You're excited to go after something bigger. You're excited to serve others. You're excited for the possibility of meeting new people and starting new relationships, but not because you need it to feel good. And even if something bad happens, quote unquote bad, even if your girlfriend breaks up with you or you get fired from your job, not to say there aren't things you have to do if you need to do it, if you need to go get another job, but you don't let it define who you are. And even if you let negative emotions come in, which you're supposed to, you're not supposed to suppress it, You choose to learn from it. So your negative emotions become empowering. They don't become something you're a slave to. I hope that video, or this video, brought you some value today. If it did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and hitting the subscribe button. That way, more people on YouTube will be able to hear this kind of information. I do dream of a world where people can start operating from this paradigm of not needing to change the external world to feel good, but rather choosing that empowering option of allowing the world to be as it is and changing internally. I do dream of that kind of world because that world will grow so far in the right direction. And I think it's important messages like this video and other people who talk about this, we can start changing the way people view things, start waking people up to a different way of viewing reality that doesn't assume you're the victim all the time. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you so much for watching. Have a really good day, and I'll see you in the next video.